What's up, guys? It's 5 Brick Guys, and today I'm gonna be making a big Lego city. This is Mr. Brick Lego Plastic, and the other day he spawned in on this giant folding table I now have in my room. It's 21 base plates, and I'm gonna fold them through the whole thing. 21, but with a few that should come, so they'll be in later in the video. So Brick spawned in.
Oh no!
Cause he saw this, which is all citizens of our new Lego city, mostly. And it's kind of like boring that they're just sitting here with nothing. So I'm gonna fix that. And how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna build a giant apartment building, which is gonna be like 5 or 6 stories tall. And this area right here is gonna be like an alleyway, and out here is gonna be like an open food market on the outside. So I dropped off all the pieces I thought I would need, and I got started. Started with the alley, and then I got out to the front area, and then I'm gonna move on to the inside, which I already tiled out off screen. And so then I added all these things, and then I also printed on a few things onto the windows. And I was getting really frustrated, and so I turned over here and got over here. And I kept building, and yeah, pretty soon it was done. And I'm basing this off of Mr. Delmar's Sandwich Shop and Spider-Man Homecoming, and it has like this red awning, so I added that. And then and then I connected it all together, and I added Mr. Delmar right here at the cash register. And then over here I have a guy looking at the news block, and then I added this guy with a man bun over here. And you might have noticed that, and we're gonna move on over here actually, never mind. And I added the big box, and then I added some like pebbles, and then I also added this Daily Bugle newspaper as well as a bag. And this wall pops out so we can have some pretty cool explosions whenever I'm playing with this. And then I added a balcony onto the front because each floor is gonna have a balcony, and then I slapped on the roof, and I was getting ready to start the next one. So first I started by adding a door, and then I worked on everything else. And yeah. But it's pretty empty, so I'm going to add some more things into it. By adding a bed with a phone on it, and a workplace. And this guy just realized he missed his test, so he's going to be studying on his computer. And so he's not lonely, I'm going to give him a dog. And then I slapped a roof on that, and I replicated this not once, not twice, but 3 times. Which the first level you already saw. This one's got Venom and Eddie Brock watching TV. Then we got these 2 guys up here. One guy's working out. And then we got these guys up here. And that one is special because it's got a mirror which you can see yourself in. And then I'm going to work on the roof, so I added some smokestacks. And then I added J. Jonah Jameson from the newspaper company. You might have noticed this like slant right here. That's because I'm going to be adding a fire escape on the whole thing. I also added a poster right here of our YouTube channel. But it's kind of outdated. Anyways, and you see how much people that used. And I'm going to stick that right here. And I was getting pretty tired, so I decided to work on the next day. Okay guys, I'm back, and this is day 2, and I'm going to build a hospital for all the minifigures that injure themselves. And this is actually from another video I did, and I improved it a little bit. So on the bottom floor, I added like a little concession stand. And over here, I added a vending machine where people can buy drinks and food. And then there's a little chair right here, so I got this guy who needs a head replacement. But for Legos, that's obviously not gonna hurt him that bad. And I added this nurse lady at the store. And then on the second floor, we have a surgical bed. And then over here, this is for like leg replacement. So I added a bunch of like replaceable minifig legs, and then I added back the thing. And I had this one body with this huge crack in the side, and I thought instead of wasting it, I would give him a new life. Kind of. So I added him into this thing. And he's on the bed, and he's got this sweet nurse working over him. But is she?
Oh no!
Yeah, maybe not. But anyways, I added that into the corner of the city, and I'm going to add the Avengers Tower, because this is going to be like a superhero theme. So I got this one from like a while back. And it's got like a bunch of different rooms, including Iron Man's Hall of Armor, and which I added 2 of my favorite suits. And then this jail where you can add Red Skull, but he can break out on the other end as well. And we got an Infinity Stone up here, and then we got like a hangout area for the Avengers to just hang out and watch TV. And then through the door, I added Thor on the balcony where he can jump off and summon lightning and go to Asgard. And so I added that right next to our apartment building, and I'm now gonna build like another apartment building with a store on the inside. So I slapped it down, and I already tiled it off already. So I worked on the base, and then I added a whole bunch of windows, and I added just a bunch of like random things you can buy at the store. And then I also added this cash register, and I added this guy with a cool hairstyle right here, and then we have this French guy looking at the stuff. And so then I moved on to the second floor, and it's pretty empty so far, and I gave it lots of details. And so then I added a whole bunch of furniture, and then I added these two guys in here, one of which is on the bed. And then I added this sign that says Mini Mart right here. And then I worked on the third floor, and I gave it a stove, a bed, and a bookshelf, and a table in the middle of the room. And then I added a roof onto that, which is completely tiled off. I got from this ice hockey thing. And then I added a guy in there. And so I then added it all together, and I put it right next to Avengers Tower. And that's enough for today, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, so now the base plates are here. So I added them in, and it's going to be like a beach right here. And the minifigures are significantly less. And so now I'm going to build another apartment building because there's still not a whole lot of places to live. And so I added the walls, and it's like an elevated area. And so then I worked onto the inside, which has got a lot of just random pieces of furniture, and a bed, bookshelf, a stove area, and this little table right here, and then a bunch of other like knickknacks to go everywhere. And then I added over here some stairs so that you can get to the second floor. And then I'm going to work on the next floor, which is going to be like another apartment building. And so I added like a science area over there, a stove, like a piece of art on the wall, and then a chair over here, and then a TV right there. And I also added this table over here and a pot of flowers, and a chair, another chair. And then I added a gutter on the roof, and I added this vandalized bicycle hanging off the door. And then I added this sign right here with a thing I printed, and I'm going to explain that on how to print right now. So basically what you do is you go onto your browser and you find the picture you want to print onto your thing. So I got these pictures. And so then you print them to the size you want, and then you can just like print them right here. And then, yeah, it's really, really easy. And so, yeah. And then I added those two floors together, and it's actually modular, so you can, like, take it apart and everything. And on this first floor, I'm going to add a lady walking around her house. And then on the second floor, there's this guy in his chair. And then we have this lady over here looking out the window, and I slapped a roof on that. And I'm going to put it right here. And so now right here, we're going to work on the buildings over here. And for my birthday, I got this... It's Peter Parker's apartment, but it's a little basic, honestly, but it's still got some cool features. And also, the wall blows out. But I'm gonna make it 100 times better. And how I'm gonna do that is, on the first floor, I'm gonna tile everything off and make it, like, much smoother, because that's how you can, like, make things better with Lego. And then I added this cereal box, which I printed. Then over here, I added a little picture, which I'm pretending to be a Brooklyn Bridge, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Anyways, on the second floor, I added more printing. I added a few more computers. And then in this little box right here, I added more pictures like Spider-Man's basic Spider-Man suit, and then this camera, which you can film for the Daily Bugle. So yeah, and then I added it in there. And yeah, and then over on this shelf over here, I added two, like, figures. And I clipped that in, and then I created one of Peter's, like, Spider-Man projects, and on his bed, there's going to be a mask. And then I added the Spider Cat from the CMF Spider-Man minifigure series, and it's unique because it's got a cat Spider-Man mask. And then on the chair, I added my Peter Parker right there, and he can, like, study and work and do whatever he needs to do. And then on the first floor, I added Aunt May and Ned with his mask, which is a reference to Spider-Man Homecoming. And then I added that right there. And so the next one is going to be a donut shop, and specifically the donut shop that MJ works at in Spider-Man No Way Home, since this is obviously superhero themed. So I had like a checkered floor, a vending machine, and then a bunch of chairs, which I stacked up next to each other. And then I added Ned right here, who's got his coffee, and MJ at the cash register. And then I added this old guy over here at this table, and then I put a wall on that. And yeah, and then I slapped a sideways building technique for a roof, and yeah, it's gonna go right there. End of day 3. Okay guys, the city is looking great, but now I'm gonna focus over here with the Dursley's house. And I know this is technically from Britain, but it's still really cool and I still want to include it. And I'm improving it as well. And it's also got these cool features, which like the Harry's cupboard over here, and then this little door out to the front. And then over here, I'm making this like a bachelor's pad. So I added a bunch of guys like hanging out around the area and like playing video games and stuff. And yeah, it's gonna go right next to the mini mart. And yeah, over here, now we gotta work to the cars. So I'm gonna first talk about this car, which is really cool because it fits. I'm adding this guy, and it can fit anything in its trunk. It can fit a little guy. It can fit like a Lego piece. It can sort of fit this criminal, and yeah, maybe not everything. But anyways, it's still really cool. And so I'm gonna work on the next car, which is gonna be this hospital truck. And it actually opens up so much so you can actually like see almost everything that's going on in there. And then in this area you can fit like 2 minifigures right there. And yeah, I can go save the day. But right here we have a popsicle stand. And yeah, we have this guy working in there. And after adding all the cars that are gonna be in the city, there's gonna be a whole lot of cars right here. And so I added them all over the place, like at this corner, and then we got this rich guy and this nice car, and a police officer chasing this guy, and then, yeah, just cars everywhere. Because that's how a real life city is. But over in one corner, I'm gonna add a basketball area. And so it's gonna be right here, and I elevated the area, and I added 2 basketball hoops, which I made by myself with no, like, help. And then over here, I'm gonna add a skate park right here, so no one hurts anyone while they're skating all over the city. So then they have like a specific area. And yeah, it's got a bunch of slants and everything. And that's enough for day 4. Now moving on to day 5. On day 5, I worked on the park, which is gonna be like a bunch of trees. And yeah, I added a bunch of like nature everywhere. And then right in the middle, I added this really cool fountain right here, which is made up like of a secret technique. And then you add a bunch of studs and yeah. It looks like real bubbling water. And I also added some sidewalks everywhere. And he needs a sign because he created the city. And so I created him a statue of himself. And then I added a whole bunch of like random signs everywhere, like a stoplight, a stop sign, and then some like signs pointing you to different areas. And then we have these lamps everywhere. And it's pretty empty here, so I decided to go ahead and add a whole bunch more minifigures everywhere. Okay, guys, it is day 6. Yeah, this is crazy. And now the last blue base plate has come, so I'm gonna work on the ocean now that we have the whole water. And I'm gonna, like, put some studs everywhere. And I also added a mansion over here. And then I added a whole bunch of sea life everywhere, like these sharks, 2 of which are, like, pre-molded. And then another one which I, like, created by myself. And then I also added this giant ship over here, and that is the one I created by myself. And there's the minifigures. And so I added every single minifigure in the city, just anywhere and everywhere. And right here, there's pretty empty, so I decided to add a public service station or a subway. And then, so I added some stairs getting up to the top. And yeah, and then I added that train from 2 videos ago, which you guys should definitely watch after this one. And then I added some signs, like I did from last video, which I yeah, but thank you everything for this video, guys. I hope you guys liked it.